Next to me is the 2019 Corvette ZR1, the fastest Corvette ever made. And with a base price of $118,900, it's also the most expensive Corvette ever made. So is the ZR1 worth the money, and can it keep up with supercars of modern day? That's what I'm here to find out. Special thanks to StreetSpeed717 for loaning me this car. This is his personal baby, and I really appreciate it. I've got a link in the description below to his channel if you want to check it out. Under the massive hood of the ZR1 is a 6.2-liter supercharged V8 dubbed the LT5. It's actually very similar in architecture to the Z06's LT4, only the blower is 52% larger. Let's go ahead and pop the hood. In fact, the new 2.65-liter blower was so big that they needed to completely redesign the hood in order for this to fit. And in order to keep up with the amount of fuel required for the ZR1 at full load, not only does this have direct injection, they had to supplement it with port injection as well. All combined, it results in a massive 755 horsepower and 715 pound-feet of torque. Oh yeah, and a top speed of 212 miles an hour. Around back, we have a newly designed quad-tipped exhaust that makes this ZR1 the loudest Corvette ever made. And under full load, when the exhaust is heated and up to temperature, it shoots massive blue flames. Now, not the kind of flames where you accelerate and let off the gas and then it shoots a flame for a couple seconds. I'm talking about when you're flat out in the ZR1, it shoots a blue flame the entire time you're on the gas, like this is some sort of rocket ship. Now, you'll notice this wing is a little bit small for the ultimate track Corvette. That's because it's one of two downforce options that Chevy calls the low wing. The other one is the high wing, and that produces 60% more downforce than the current Z06 with the same levels of drag. It's also fully adjustable up to 5 degrees. If you look at the rear window on the ZR1, it's actually made up of a ton of tiny Corvette logos that forms this nice gradient. Do they have to do that in the rear window? Absolutely not, but it's pretty cool that they did. The front fascia on the ZR1 now has 3 air intakes instead of 1. That helps feed air over the newly added radiators. In fact, there are 4 additional radiators over the Z06 for a total of 13 heat exchangers. That's actually 3 more than a Bugatti Chiron has. Cooling was a huge issue on the Z06 when it was first released, and Chevy didn't want to make the same mistake again. Well, the previous generation ZR1 featured a clear polycarbonate window in the hood so that you could see the supercharger. They didn't do that with the new ZR1. That's because the powertrain actually sits 3 inches higher than any other Corvette. So as an engineering challenge, developing a hood that both fits over the supercharger and doesn't completely obstruct the view of the driver was quite difficult. They've done that, sort of. Come around to the side of the ZR1 and you'll notice the massive wheel arches. These are actually half an inch wider than the Z06 to help incorporate the wider 10.5-inch front wheel. 2 85 section tires on the front, 335s out back with Michelin Pilot Super Sports. Is that enough to tame 755 horsepower just to the rear wheels? We'll find out. The side profile of the ZR1 actually looks very similar to the Z06, minus this large carbon fiber vent here. Doesn't have that Z06 insignia. Looks a little bit cooler. The interior of the ZR1 feels very similar to that in the Z06. It's familiar, yet still upscale and classy. We've got a plethora of carbon fiber, Alcantara, and leather, and you can tell that Chevy took criticism into consideration with the C6 generation as they've radically improved the interior for the C7, and even upped the game a little bit more in the ZR1. There are 2 trim options for the interior of the ZR1. We have the 1ZR package and the 3ZR package. The 3ZR being the more expensive upscale version. It comes with heated and ventilated seats, a custom leather interior, a 10-speaker Bose sound system. It even has this camera in the front that allows you to see exactly where the curb is so that you don't smash the front bumper of your ZR1 into a curb. It also comes with PDR as standard and a few other options as well. With the 3ZR package, you also get 11 interior color choices instead of just one in the base package. And because this is a ZR1, you have tons of space in the back like all Corvettes. I love the fact that this is a full-fledged supercar, yet you can also carry around a lot of luggage. 15 cubic feet of space. Let's compare that to the GT3 RS, another car that's close to this one in its competition on the track. That only has 4.4 cubic feet of space. Not even close. All right, well, enough talking just stationary. Let's go ahead and put this in first gear and take it for a spin. This ZR1 is fitted with the optional competition seats. They grip you in place a lot better and they look a lot nicer than the normal GT seats do. If I had to describe the driving experience of the ZR1 with one word, it would be brutal. Whether it's the sound or the acceleration, everything about the ZR1 is intense and raw. Standard on the ZR1 is magnetic ride suspension that scans the road every single millisecond and can make corrections in as little as 15 milliseconds to make sure the suspension is set up optimally for the conditions ahead. We have 3 different driving modes in the ZR1 that can be selected via this toggle in the center area here. We've got Tour, Sport, and Track. There used to be 2 additional modes, Wet and Eco on the Z06, but we don't need Wet and Eco on the ZR1. There's also 4 different exhaust settings as well. There's Tour, Sport, Track, and Pussy. I mean, Stealth mode. Please, never use Stealth mode. Not only are the driving modes customizable, changing the throttle response and steering effort and suspension layout, the actual dash display is customizable as well. You're able to link them or make it independent of what mode you're in. Track mode has this lovely horizontal display where the tachometer revs this way. The rest look like familiar circular tachometers. That's why I leave it in track. There's a brilliant heads-up display that has 3 different settings as well with varying amounts of information from what gear you're in, RPM, as well as speed. I like the track setting with all the performance data on that as well. If you equip your ZR1, which this one doesn't have, with the optional ZTK package, that gives you Pilot Sport Cup 2s instead of Pilot Super Sports for more grip. You also get a retuned magnetic ride suspension with 30% higher spring rates in the front and 13% higher spring rates in the rear. It also gives you a massive carbon fiber front splitter and the higher carbon fiber rear wing, generating up to 950 pounds of downforce at its new top speed, 202 miles an hour. Note the difference of 10 miles an hour because of that extra drag caused by the downforce. The ZR1 has 2 transmission options, a 7-speed manual fitted in this car and an 8-speed automatic. Having driven a ton of automatic Z06s, they have lackluster paddle response. When you leave it in automatic mode, sure, it upshifts and downshifts pretty quick, but having a car at that level of performance where when you click the paddle, there's a significant delay in downshifts is just disappointing. And that's why I think no matter what, you should get your ZR1 with a manual. Sure, 755 horsepower and rear wheel drive with the manual is definitely a handful, and you might be a little slower in the quarter mile and around the track than the automatic equipped car, but there's no denying it's a heck of a lot more fun. And you might notice on the steering wheel itself, there's actually paddles mounted behind it, but what do the paddles do if I'm in a manual car? Well, both of them actually activate automatic rev matching. I have that off right now, and if I'm in 3rd gear and I downshift into 2nd, I have to actually rev match myself, otherwise the car lurches and the wheel spins. So normal downshift there. But if I click the rev matching button, I'll shift back up into 3rd. Let's go to 4th. Watch this. You all of a sudden seem like the best manual transmission driver ever. Going to 3rd, perfect downshift. Going to 2nd, perfect downshift. It's totally cheating, but it is a little bit fun. Let's turn that back off though, because I can roll my own gears. This thing is scary. 755 horsepower. Oh wow, is a lot of power. The steering feel in the ZR1 is fantastic. It's nice and heavy. It feels precise and direct, making the ZR1 feel nimble and easy to dance around the track. It actually set the Virginia International Raceway lap record, going around the track 1.4 seconds faster than the new Ford GT. That's a really big victory for Chevy, especially considering the Ford GT with options is closer to $500,000, which is essentially 4 times more than a ZR1. Certainly not getting 4 times better performance. In fact, actually, this car is faster in every measurable statistic. Now, a lot of people have been referencing the 7-minute and 12-second Nürburgring lap time. If in fact the ZR1 did actually set a 7:12 Nürburgring time, that would be pretty embarrassing. The new generation GT3 RS with 235 less horsepower than the ZR1 just did it in 6:56. But that's actually not the case for the ZR1. Yes, it did a 7:12, but that was recorded unofficially by bystanders on the side of the road with their own measuring equipment. There's no way to know if there was traffic on the other side of the track or if it was raining or snowing on the other side as well. And they were simply testing the ZR1, setting benchmarks. They weren't actually going all out for the lap time. Considering the new Viper ACR was able to do it in the low 7 minutes, I believe 7:02, this thing is surely capable of a sub 7-minute Nürburgring lap time. What about acceleration statistics? Well, as you'd imagine, with a car that weighs 3,500 pounds and has 755 horsepower, they're pretty crazy. 0 to 60 happens in a face-ripping 2.85 seconds, and the quarter mile in 10.6 at 134 miles an hour. That is serious speed. Now, how does that compare to its more expensive foreign rivals? Well, the Ferrari 488 does 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, a little bit faster, and it does the quarter mile in an identical 10.6 at 135 miles an hour. Second gear, roll on the throttle, it's a little damp. The fact that this is stock and you can just buy this, oh my God, that is actually terrifying. What's insane is the ZR1 is now offered in convertible form. That's right, if you live in California, you want limitless headroom and weather isn't a concern, you can get it in a convertible and the top can retract at speeds up to 30 miles an hour. Does it make sense to get a full-fledged track performance monster as a convertible? Not necessarily, but some people might want that. Another cool feature, although it's nothing new, is the performance data recorder, which actually comes standard with the 3ZR package. That gives you the ability to record lap times, both with data, also with audio and visual, through a camera mounted on the back of the rear view mirror. There's also a dedicated interior microphone for the PDR system as well. But my favorite part is valet mode. When you put the PDR system in valet mode, it records all around in the front of the car so you can see what's happening outside, and it also records the audio inside. So if you let somebody else drive your car, who knows, Mike, Street Speed 717, might be recording me right now and upload some weird video in case I do something crazy in his car. A Corvette actually captured my Gallardo while I wasn't driving, crashing into a wall and catching air. Thankfully, it was on film, so I could figure out exactly what happened to my car. Mike, aka Street Speed 717 in the car now. That's you. So you've had this car, it looks like, for 2,295 miles. Yep. And before that, you had a Z06.
Yeah, I've had 2 Z06s and, two Z06s and 2 Stingrays, and now a ZR1. So I've had the lineup, except for a Grand Sport. I guess that's the only one I'm missing.
What do you think of this so far?
Dude, this one is just an incredible machine. I mean, it's so just crazy in your face aggressive and loud, and like the sound it makes, bone stock. It has such an aggressive, crazy exhaust for bone stock. And, you know, I'm probably going to make it louder at some point, but it really doesn't need it.
And actually, like, this is one of the few cars that doesn't need to be louder. Yeah. And you're not making an excuse like, oh, well, it doesn't need to be louder because I want to daily drive it or so on and so forth. It actually doesn't need to be louder because it doesn't freaking need to be louder. It's so loud.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great 2,300 miles. It's been on the track, had its first track day, you know, where this car is supposed to be driven. And did really well, felt very stable. You know, was keeping up with McLarens all day long. And I'm not a great, you know, I'm not a track driver. I mean, I'm getting better, but I'm in no way an expert at all. And I'm still keeping up with cars of that caliber very easily.
So you were saying something really interesting, and that was that this is the current highest horsepower manual car on sale?
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing that I've touched on multiple times in my videos, and I haven't heard anybody else say it in any review. I haven't heard GM like boast about it, but I feel like it's the case, and if it's not the case, so be it. But I feel like this is the most powerful production car you can buy with a manual transmission.
It's got to be.
I'm not talking about like Koenigsegg and, you know, Pagani will build you a Zonda, but, you know, actual production cars. And I feel like this is the most powerful one.
Yeah, because the Demon's only an auto.
Yep.
The ZL1, obviously less power.
I can't think of anything.
I can't think of anything either. The only potential car that could have more power than this is the new GT500. I'd rather have this though, because it can lap a track and go crazy fast in a straight line. Versus,
we'll see with that. I'm excited to see that car.
It should be pretty cool. Well, dude, thanks again for letting me drive this car. Especially, it was raining earlier, so the fact that you trusted me out here in a 755 horsepower rear-wheel drive car, I appreciate that. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. Subscribe to Mike if you haven't already. Link in the description below. I look forward to seeing you next video. Oh, okay.